Hi, welcome to Fanfic Friday. This is a series that we do every week on Friday, as the name would suggest.
What?
Not on Thursday, not on Saturday. There's a day in between that we like to have it fall on.
Who
Take
knows
a
what
wild
day?
guess as to what it is.
Eons ago.
But this is she was telling a story, and that's the whole point of this series, is to tell stories. Stories based on popular media and characters within it, usually. What we do is we take 3 hats, and each container has characters, a location, and a scenario. We have to tie all of those together and thread them into an intricate tapestry known as a fanfiction.
In 30 minutes or less.
In 30 minutes or less. There's a time limit.
Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's trash.
Speaking of trash, my story this week features the characters Mojo Jojo, from Powerpuff Girls fame, as you might know, and Mad Max, the testosterone-fueled character portrayed by Mel Gibson and or Tom Hardy. The location is the Lego world, so I took that to be specifically the Lego universe from the movie, and the scenario is, I believe I put this in, which is why it sounds so very pithy and British, talking about how shit other superheroes are. The pith is off the charts. I enjoyed writing this fic because I basically got... This is one of those stories where I wasn't trying to tell a cohesive story, I was just trying to screw around. I was just trying to mess around to my heart's content and see what happened, and this is what happened. I called it Nostalgia Vomit, for good reason. Strip after faded yellow strip of brick peeled off into the horizon. Or rather, into the painting of a horizon, crudely erected at one end of the table upon which the Lego structures towered. Plastic cacti peppered the blocky sand dunes, the telltale bumps of the brickwork sticking out more like steps than hills. It was across this terrain that Max now raced, his bright yellow face marred with detailed stress lines and stubble that had been drawn upon his adorable little head.
It's so cute.
He drove a miniature replica of his Ford Falcon XB GT, reaching speeds upwards of 20 centimeters per hour. He was limitless, except for the fact that if he drove anywhere near the table's edge, he would likely fall off and be swallowed by the household dog, Tilly. And that wasn't an experience he intended to repeat anytime soon.
No.
The implication has been pooped out by a dog before. I've been pooped out. I've been pooped out enough for one lifetime.
Why did he say it out loud?
That means multiple times of being pooped out. How would you not learn after the first one?
To be fair, wouldn't the first time be enough?
It would be
for a
enough.
lifetime?
That would be enough.
That's true.
How many times? What is the hard limit on being pooped out?
I would think like
What'd you
3.
call it?
3.
You threw it 3, okay.
No, I do
3's
not
a charm.
want to know anything about your future
I personally am
relationship.
good at 0. Max's voice croaked over the roaring of his engine, or rather the facsimile of engine noise coming from the child who now pushed him slowly across the Lego world. He was followed closely behind by Immortan Joe, who was keeping deadly pace. In actuality, it was the boy's sister's Mojo Jojo Lego figure, dressed to look somewhat like the villain from Fury Road, as his parents were too cheap to shell out for the whole Mad Max set. But it was close enough. Bring me those Powerpuff Girls! Bellowed Immortan Jojo, posed atop the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pizza thrower the boy had salvaged from his dad's old collection from the 80s. They are my property! And that means they do not belong to you, for it is me who owns them, and I am the one doing the collecting, because they are mine and not yours. Max grunted defiantly. The 3 Powerpuff Girls were strapped to the back of Max's car with duct tape. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. The implication was that Immortan Joe had been using them as concubines, but in the boy's head they had simply been forced to stay overnight at a smelly man's house, and Max was rescuing them.
That's the worst.
Max didn't have time to quibble with the shallow story details. He had a job to do. Rescue these wives, girls, superpowered prepubescent concubines from a different franchise altogether. Mind if I bat in? A dry, snarky voice cut through their action scene. Why, oh no, man!
That's a bad pun.
Causing Max to swerve to avoid it. Overhead hung the familiar, awe-inspiring sight of the Batwing. The pilot stood on the aircraft's wing with his leg cocked and his arms folded, regarding the high-speed chase with his best Lego smolder. His cape would have fluttered, but it was mostly glued down after years of abuse.
Batman's just like, bleh, bleh. They're like, if you aren't responsible enough to have a cape, Batman, it's gonna get glued down.
Batman! Immortan Jojo spat, the helmet containing his oversized brain glinting beneath the burning light bulb. What are you doing here interfering in my affairs? The affairs are also my property, because they are mine, have nothing to do with you.
Oh my god.
I'm here to rescue some adorable damsels in distress. Lego Batman glided down from the aircraft, landing on the hood of Max's car. Max glared wide-eyed at the Caped Crusader. He was pretty sure he had a handle on this situation. He didn't need help from some grumbling, gravel-voiced loner with a few screws loose. Lego Batman continued, "Because I just know this grumbling, gravel-voiced loner with a few screws loose is gonna screw things up."
You just used the word screw twice in a sentence! This is grammatically unnecessary!
Immortan Jojo decried.
I did not know that post-apocalyptic wasteland people were so well-spoken.
Grammar Nazis, man, it's a new tribe of people.
It works just fine.
Lego Batman assured, "Check your Batchinary."
Batchinary?
Immortan Jojo blinked, his own vehicle coming to a stop, accidentally shooting small plastic pizzas in several directions as he searched for the button that made it slow down.
What, is that like dictionary only?
Bat-themed. Lego Batman chuckled proudly to himself, starting to work on the tape restraining Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup.
It's more like a thesaurus for people who exclusively want to write about bats and have limited bat-cabulary.
Is it a dictionary or thesaurus, though? Because I need to know.
It's like both of those things.
It's a bat
So it's completely
dictionary.
useless.
It's like both of those things.
That's like a vocabulary, only I know what a bat-cabulary is!
Immortan Jojo screamed.
The context of your sentences suggested what it was long ago, before you even were talking about it. Therefore, as an attentive listener, I was able to put 2 and 2 together. How about putting 1 and 3 together?
But Lego Batman boomed triumphantly, tearing the duct tape in one slick motion and releasing the 3 young superheroic schoolgirls.
'Cause from where I'm standing, that makes a Batker's dozen. What are you saying?
They're gonna go eat some bat goals after this.
What you're saying makes no sense, even in context!
Argued Immortan Jojo before he began firing abundant pizzas in Batman's direction. The Powerpuff Girls zipped into the air and floated a safe distance away.
Curse you, Powerpuff Girls! And also Lego Batman!
Max grunted despondently,
What
feeling
was the last thing he said?
And also Lego Batman.
Oh, I see.
Max grunted despondently, feeling left out of all the cursing. "Well, look at all this macho crap!" Buttercup remarked, rolling her eyes as the Ford Falcon became submerged under a pile of pepperoni. "All these guy heroes do is break stuff and yell at each other. Makes me want to break stuff and yell at them!" "Careful, Buttercup," Blossom advised, staying the other's hand. Her ginger hair was highlighted by the light from the bulb overhead. "We don't want to stoop to their level. Literally. They're fighting on a coffee table in the garage. Who knows when they last cleaned it?" "You're right," Buttercup conceded. The Powerpuff Girls floated away from the battlefield, leaving the boys to their toys, literally. Bubbles caught one of the pizzas that had careened off of Max's chassis and now munched on it as they departed. Grunted Max in defeat. He wished he was a tiny girl with superpowers. So,
Okay.
what do you think of that?
I thought it was nice.
It was cute.
It's cute, right?
It's very nostalgic.
Didn't really have people talking shit about other superheroes, although he did insult Lego Batman.
He did.
So,
I like that it didn't actually star the characters that you drew. It sort of did, but it didn't. I mean, it was just like any other Mad
Mojo
Max
Jojo
movie.
was pretty heavily involved, and Max. It was from Max's perspective, and what else does he do really?
Yeah,
in
well,
these
that's
things?
what I was saying. Is what other like in the movies?
And
That's basically
highlighted
how
him
it
in the
goes.
way that he was highlighted in the movie.
There you go.
For this week, I was given a couple of strange characters. I drew Reinhardt from Overwatch,
So weird.
who's my main, and then I also drew Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards.
Both German.
Both German, yeah. The location was the Aperture Science Test Chamber, suggested by Yvonne Hoff, and the scenario was the infamous zombies that we got like 3 or 4 times the first.
I thought it was
zombies.
I thought it was specifically described as that in this.
No, I'm just saying like we like the first time.
Zombies.
No, the very first time we did this ever,
We got, like,
three
three
people
people.
drew zombies as a scenario.
Because
so-
everybody put zombies in, because everybody thinks of that as their first go-to scenario.
Yeah, so it was a very monotonous night.
Everybody's in the zombie apocalypse, and you gotta figure out what to do.
Reinhardt stood beside a large window, the light from the other room illuminating his concerned features ominously with the absence of his trademark helmet. His hair, long and silvered from experiences much like this one, brushed along his shoulders. Keeping his hands clasped behind his back, Reinhardt fought to keep his face impassive as his commanding officer stepped forward to take his place beside the decorated soldier. "So?" Landa asked expectantly as he gestured to the shuffling, mindless occupants of the other room.
Infamous occupants.
"What do you think?" The corners of Reinhardt's lips pulled down, mustache trying in vain to hide his distaste.
I love Christoph Waltz would be honored by your portrayal, I think.
He's such a, like... He's so cute. He's such a bubbly little German murderer.
What exactly have you done to these men?
He asked, his normally boisterous voice kept at a low murmur. Hans was not one to miss out on details, having served as one of the most brutally feared soldiers in the Nazi regime.
Did Reinhardt do that?
No.
Okay, good. I got confused.
Landa.
I was going to say, I missed some Overwatch backstory.
No, he's not a Nazi. This takes, this actually, like, Reinhardt would exist, like, way ahead of World War II.
Right.
But in this case, he was part of the... Well, actually, you know what? Never mind.
I can imagine.
He frowned, palms opening to his conversation partner in an effort to downplay the seriousness of his actions.
Nothing they did not agree to,
the commander said, shrugging his shoulders and resting his hands on the front of his hips. Eyes narrowed, thin lips curled into a small smile.
These men were soldiers left homeless from the war. They had nothing. Here at Aperture, we could promise them a better future towards a greater cause.
I'm starting to suspect he might not have everyone's best interests in heart.
Wow! You are so in tune with this story.
I actually didn't get that.
No?
But
He seems like a good guy.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Likes
you know?
bingo.
Like,
He's just taking care of those guys.
yeah,
Fanfics.
took care of lots of guys.
Theme facts.
Not one that they'll remember.
Reinhardt's voice cracked, not from emotion, but from years of screaming over blasts and gunfire. He knew better than anyone the cost of war, but this was not something he'd asked to be put on the bill.
Individuals hardly matter when it comes to consideration of the greater good.
The Nazi scoffed, hand waving through the air with a limp wrist. He was not large or particularly muscled. Since his escape from the conflict in World War II, Landa had started working with key military strategists on the Allied side. Reinhardt had been unfortunate enough to be partnered with him. His war crimes aside, Landa was an opportunist, willing to sell himself to the winning side at any price.
Oh.
That alone made Hans a difficult person for Reinhardt to tolerate. This is a really hard fanfiction to read.
Reinhardt, he didn't like that. But
No.
aren't Overwatch like when they bounty hunters or when they mercenaries?
They're not quite
No.
bounty hunters because they still have a certain moral code. That's why, like, they
okay.
have rivals
so
like...
Hans Landa doesn't have that, and that's why they butt
Yeah,
heads.
that's why I busted
Yeah.
him.
Okay. Also the zombies.
I mean, and also there's the fundamental difference of in this situation, Reinhardt's fighting on the Allied side and has always fought on the Allied side. This, however, was something beyond the scope of something Reinhardt could ignore. He had been notified of a special project being led by his division, but was not informed of much more beyond that, if he had only known sooner.
Just think about how useful something like this could be.
Landa said with his best impression of a used car salesman.
I mean zombies! Useful! Duh!
Biological warfare that is untraceable. Mindless cannibals that can infect others with little difficulty, hide them in plain sight, and no one will be any the wiser until it's too late.
The visor.
The wiser.
The wiser.
I remember I was in Germany, and at the time I was a virgin, and trying to hear our
Virgin.
German friend say the word virgin was the most hilarious
How'd
thing.
they say it?
He was like, "You are wargin?"
That's the Warcraft race.
I guess, yeah. So,
Oh.
there you go, virgins. You now have your own class in World of Warcraft. Not that you didn't before, but
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
arguably easier to defend against than a lab-grown disease or a nuclear fallout. But this was decidedly more sneaky, which is why Reinhardt could not find himself appreciating the so-called genius of the proposal. He was never one to approve of a fight that someone was unable to prepare themselves for.
This is the work of a coward.
Reinhardt spat, folding his arms across his chest and turning to loom over the other man. Hans remained unfazed, the infuriating smile still plastered on his lips. He grinned up at his armored countryman, shaking his head in what could only be described as pity.
Success is still success, regardless of how cowardly I am,
Hans said, face darkening.
and I am nothing if not successful.
In that moment, Reinhardt could see the face of every man, woman, and child Landa had imprisoned throughout the Nazi occupation of Europe. He watched as the soldier intimidated farmers, mothers, business people, homeowners, every person of every status, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and carry people off to their slow, painful deaths.
There are less zombies in this than I expected.
Yeah. Reinhardt knew that Hans had deserted the German forces when the time was right. Reinhardt had refused to participate in the first place, defecting to the Allied side without hesitation. But Landa had caused so much death and was not only freed of punishment but was also now working with the very people he had been fighting against. The thick, messy lines of a swastika-shaped scar rested beneath the bangs that Hans had carefully grown out to cover it, but it couldn't erase his crimes, no longer how much people were willing to ignore them to have him work alongside them. Reinhardt heard shattering glass, completely unaware that he had just broken...
Stone cold! Sorry.
Do another spin-a-rooney!
Reinhardt heard shattering glass, completely aware that he had just broken the observation window looking down into the test chamber. Landa was screaming at him now, cool eyes now wild with bewilderment.
This is not the most rational reaction. Like, think it through, Reinhardt.
There is no thinking.
But he just broke open the thing so the zombies could pour out.
It's an overhang. Like, it's an aperture test thing, so it's all the observation rooms is where they're at. Landa was screaming at him now, cool eyes now wild with bewilderment at his reckless action.
And accent.
Ugh. The zombies on the ground below looked up at the distraction, glass falling into their eyes as it tumbled towards the ground, tears of blood streaking their cheeks as they attempted to blink away the shards.
Oh,
Painful.
why that? Jeez.
I guess it's time to change the definition of success.
Landa screamed all the way down to the ground. Landa continued to scream as he was slowly picked apart by the monsters he created. With an effective yank, one particularly zealous zombie ripped out his throat, a deep gurgling the only evidence that he was still alive.
Like a mum with that chicken's voice box.
Yeah. And when that stopped, a peace settled into Reinhardt's bones as he prayed that his victims might finally find peace.
Why don't you just get Mercy, throw her down there and have her go, heroes never die, and then everyone's fine.
Well, I mean, that's what happens in the middle of every match, is she basically turns everyone into zombies. I'm pretty sure
I never thought about that.
she does just bring them back to life. That's my story.
It's a good one, Marianne. It was nice. It was nice and there's a lot of prose.
I just wanted to rip a zombie.
Zombies and more about, hey, how have these characters come to meet and what are they doing? What do they get along? And what's the natural response of each character in this situation, which we don't often play around with. We're often just like, hey, they're in this crazy scenario and they ditch it.
We gotta fight a zombie, and it's normally like a very graphic scene of a zombie getting killed, and that's like, whoa, and then someone dramatically dies, but it was more about like the characters.
It was kind of nice, yeah.
Well, you know that Hans would totally take advantage of that situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, he possibly could.
My story is Linda Belcher.
Yeah.
Which was
Linda
recommended.
Turner.
Oh my goodness, that's so great.
Yes. Was recommended by Drake DNA, and then I got Electabuzz, who was recommended by Philby.
The Pokemon?
Thanks, Philby. What?
The
Electabuzz? Yeah.
Oh my god.
What
Yeah.
else? What other option would it be?
I don't know.
It's gonna be good.
It's a band.
And they're at the gym, and they're dead and trying to remember how they got there, which was recommended by Lavender.
You got a Pokemon character and the gym.
Yeah.
That's, man.
I actually didn't think about that.
Oh.
So we're just gonna do something else
Lifting,
now?
okay.
Yeah.
Take all those expectations and just throw them out the door.
Yeah.
Lower those.
Yeah. Linda Belcher opened her eyes and blinked a few times. She was staring at herself in the mirror at the gym while standing on an elliptical machine. The only problem with that situation is that she wasn't actually standing on it, more like floating. Oh, well, this is an unexpected turn of events, she said nonchalantly to herself while giving a better look at the mirror. She could see herself, but the reflection of herself wasn't completely opaque. Trailing her eyes from her face and down her torso, she stopped at her feet, exclaiming, "Would you look at that? I got a little Casper tail instead of feet. Oh, Bobby would love this. He always hates how his feet have to touch the ground at all times."
Wow, she's just like, oh boy,
I'm dead. Bobby's gonna love it.
look at my feet. They're gone.
She wasn't necessarily worried about the fact that she had died and become a ghost, but the thought did cross her mind that she might have to figure out where she was.
Oh.
She floated away from the elliptical machine, and just as she was about to round the corner, she heard a horrifying sound. Oh dear, Linda remarked.
Was it a goat?
To find out! That sounds just like when Bobby gave me the old motorboat to my hoo-hees.
Oh!
Which, seeing as I'm over here and I really don't want to find out what's happening to who,
Hoo-hees.
she stopped and pondered whether or not they would even realize she's there as a ghost, but instead decided to call out to the foreign sound. Hello? Anybody over there? I'm sort of a ghost and don't know if you can hear me or not, and I don't want to interrupt anything.
This is very obvious how she died in the first place. She's one of those people in the horror movie that's like, hello?
Yeah.
Is anyone there?
She sat in silence for a moment before hearing a grunt and more come from just beyond the corner. Before she could think of another question to ask, a 3-foot-tall creature stepped from around the corner. Are you a bee with your little nubby feelers and your black and yellow stripy stripes?
That's racist, Linda.
She said, oogling Electabuzz with blissful ignorance. I've always loved honeybees. If they didn't exist, Bobby couldn't call me honey. Ha ha! Linda said as she slapped her knee.
What?
I just want
She
Linda.
doesn't have a knee anymore. She's got a little ghost tail.
She can have like a knee.
She can have a knee. She just doesn't have feet. She doesn't have any feet.
I like it. A knee area.
Electabuzz looked on confused as Ghost Linda regained her composure. The creature said to Linda as she seemed to have calmed down.
What does it sound like?
Oh, that's certainly not gonna do if you're trying to tell me something. I don't speak bee. Would you call it bee or would it be more grand like insectanese?
This woman is so racist.
I don't speak your crazy language.
And I just assume that you're a bee.
Yes.
Every other bee she's encountered just goes bzzz, and then this one shows up that's massive and goes and she's like, oh, it's just talking like a regular bee.
Seeing that the ghost was going to keep trying to talk to herself, Electabuzz walked to a nearby door further into the gym and grunted, waving the transparent woman forward. All right, Mr. Buzzy Bee, but don't think I'm gonna break out into a sweat. Electabuzz walked into the weight room and gestured at the body on the ground with the torso covered in a sheet. Oh, hey, yeah! I died or something, which turned me into the ghosty ghost. Is this supposed to be me? I need to lose a few in the tush, Linda said, analyzing her lifeless form.
No, you can't because you're just a spectral form that can't change.
You can learn insectanese, though.
In about 3 lifetimes. That'll probably be enough time for her to change her
That's
terrible
how long
racist
you
ways.
learn insectanese?
Yeah, it takes a long time.
300 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
didn't
surprising.
know we were in the presence of such a fucking, expert.
So what exactly happened, Mr. B? Did I drop a weight on my face or an aneurysm?
Is Insectabuzz... What is it?
Electabuzz?
Insectabuzz.
It's
Who's the racist now?
Is Electabuzz guiding her into the afterlife? Why?
You'll find out again.
He is God. God is just like...
I don't know what I'd do.
That was the original language.
Electabuzz knew this would be the hard part if she didn't speak Pokemon-English.
Now it's
That's right, it's the real word for what they speak. If her human form were still intact, it could communicate through electrical pulses, but being a ghost made things much harder. Instead, Electabuzz fished through Linda's nearby purse and pulled out a tube of red lipstick. I get that I died, Sweet Bee, but I need to know how, and if we can put my hot wisp of a thing back into that sexy meat bag, she said, turning to face the other wall of mirrors, as no gym was a gym without far too many mirrors. Electabuzz began writing out his message, but after the first word, Linda turned in shock. Red rum! She screeched at the obvious display of severe dyslexia.
I'm very sad that it's not...
Electabuzz was a bit taken aback, as it had taken a lot of time to learn how to spell from its trainer's books, and they were often upside down.
100
It took
years.
100 years.
300.
300.
It was then that Electabuzz realized that the problem at hand could be solved by the very electrical pulses that allowed it to see spectral figures. Just as Linda was about to try teaching how to properly spell the word, her body was jolted to life by a few very intense shocks from the large
Jolteon's
bee's
involved.
body. What?
No, Jolteon's involved.
No.
No,
Electabuzz
Electabuzz is
an electric
electrical.
type. Or did you legitimately forget?
I didn't know in the first place.
John Jacob Cananza! Linda yelled as she bolted upright with her ghost being shocked back into her body.
What?
that?
John Jacob?
I don't know.
Is that something she says?
I don't know. I just made it up.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
This is the best remake of B movie I've ever heard. By the way.
Oh, hey, bee friend, you're here! Did I die? How did that happen, by the way? Are you dead? Can I see ghosts now? Linda's questions were flowing endlessly, so Electabuzz decided that electrical impulses would now be a better method of communication. Linda felt a bit prickly, but heard distinct words crackling in her ears. Mrs. Linda Belcher, the voice said, which she decided would sound in her mind as a smooth, deep voice that no female could possibly replicate. My name is Electabuzz, and I am a Pokemon capable of gathering and using electrical currents. I ask that you keep the sheet wrapped around your torso on your person, as the reason you died is because I cannot stand the color red. Electabuzz said, gesturing to where Linda's shirt was hiding under the sheet. Much like matadors use red to infuriate bulls, I too am affected by this hue, and while it was not my intent to cause harm, I electrocuted you by accident. Since I am tied to electricity and your soul is tied electrically to your body moments after death, that doesn't sound very scientifically correct if you— Ah! Linda said as the prickly shocks became slightly stronger. I'm a Pokemon, and you can't doubt my logic, Electabuzz said, to which Linda shrugged and continued to listen. I can see your soul when it has freshly left your body. I feel quite close to being alive and dead all the time. A blessing in some instances, a curse in others, Electabuzz said tearfully. Well, cheer up, little bee buddy, and stay away from the general public, as red is a pretty common color, she said, patting Electabuzz. Linda was pretty spent from dying and being brought back to life, so she gathered up her purse and as she was leaving yelled to her new bee buddy, I'll wear something blue, but always call first to make sure I remember. Be safe, little buddy, she said, waving goodbye. Electabuzz was caught off guard, but was excited about having a new friend. Maybe the other 10 people he had to bring back to life would be just as forgiving.
He has to bring people back to life?
He shocked everybody. It's in the... So, Electabuzz hates the color red. It's even in the show. Where if he sees red, he'll either, like, throw a million punches or just, like, raise the area.
Okay.
So everyone's in a gym. They're all touching metal stuff. So he just, like, electrocuted a bunch of people because Linda wore a red shirt.
Oh.
Mass murder. Another week.
Another week.
Another Friday.
Another Friday.
Another fan fiction. More friends, more fun.
More Linda Belcher voices. I think I want more of that in the future.
More Linda Belcher.
I still the whole segment is Linda Belcher.
Oh,
Linda Belcher's racist.
If you really like that fic or any of those fics, you can check them out at our archive of our own account, which is down in the description. Bobby loves that account. He goes and reads our fanfics all the time. Listen, if you want to suggest some more stuff for our fanfics, such as characters, locations, and scenarios, characters should be either me, or Tina, or Barbie, or Louise, or whoever the other one is. And then you can also suggest location,
Oh my God.
which could be Bob's Burgers, or anywhere else in that show. There are other locations.
Literally anything else in the world.
Yeah, maybe.
Or
I
any
don't
other
know.
world.
But also scenario should be dancing.
Or just anything, really.
Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next Friday. Cha 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 cha.